because I vividly remember you when you were younger. I mean, your camera and so much. It was. I'm like,
Oh
nah,
yeah,
let's let.
yeah. I used to carry my camera all the time. I didn't put it down now though, pretty much.
Okay, yes, sir. And we are almost waiting for another good. Okay, excellent. We are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in for a special edition of Off the Record this evening. We have an illustrious guest, um, who is family to me and my family, and someone who's known myself and my siblings before we were born. And just, I'm honored to have you, Brother James.
Uh,
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam, but Joshua, great to
It,
be here, man.
this is truly an honor. Brother James.
But this ain't off the record. This is on the record, no, brother.
Okay, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brother James, I have a question.
Yeah.
When did you first hear the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
I first heard the teachings really back in like 78 or around 78 when some of my friends and my fraternity brothers, we actually brought the minister to Cincinnati and he spoke at the University of Cincinnati. I had never been really aware of the minister before that. And, you know, growing up, in Cincinnati was a pretty, you know, pretty hot with the nation. So then there were lots of Muslims up on people's corner and, you know, selling the Muhammad Speak. So as a young child, I remember, you know, seeing the brothers with the paper, but I never was familiar with the teachings until like in the 70s, late 70s when we brought the minister to Cincinnati.
Yes, sir. Okay, wonderful. I never do that. Yes, sir. And why? Well, let's focus on your fraternity. You are a member of which fraternity?
Well, you know, it's the best one. Some folks, I know there's going to create some arguments, but Omega, the ministers' fraternity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Omega Psi Phi. I crossed in 73.
Wow. Yes, sir. But James, you look extra young. I would have never known it was 73.
Yeah, 73. I crossed. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And why did you accept the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, sir?
Well, initially, when I came in, and when I first heard the minister, he was, you know, I wasn't familiar with him. And we was at the University of Cincinnati. I think I still have some of the negatives or the pictures somewhere of that event. It was just, it appealed to my nature. And, you know, I was a church going kind of guy. I wasn't an obedient church going guy. But, you know, what I found was that Islam made me a better Christian than I was when I was even in the church. And I, you know, and I never left the church, but, you know, without a doubt, Islam made me a better Christian than I was when I was in the church as a practicing Christian.
Okay, so that's excellent. Okay, yes, sir. What was it after you brought the minister to your college? When did you reconnect with him again?
When did I personally reconnect with him?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Other than going to study groups? Well, you know, there was a study group, but my personal early recollection is when we came to Chicago when he was, I think it was when he was on Damon, living in Damon, and we went to his house to get the Final Call newspapers when it was coming out, like whenever they could get it out, and he was publishing it from his basement. And so, yeah, and I remember, you know, I don't recall him being there, but I recall Mother Khadija being there. And they were giving us the papers. And the one thing that really stuck out to me as my first early recollection was Mother Khadija saying to us in there, you know, in a like a voice that was like a motherly voice, she was saying, they won't help my husband. And at that time, you know, I kind of probably thought I knew what she meant, but you know, I was thinking, was she meaning that those in the former Muslims,
yes, sir,
when the split, they weren't helping her husband, and that's what I took that to mean. And so he was building it brick by brick by himself. That was my earliest recollection of just being in the environment of the minister. I can't really pop. It doesn't really immediately pop to mind when I first actually met him, other than meeting him when he was in the University of Cincinnati.
Okay, excellent. Yes, sir. Okay, my sister Mimi says, thank you for always being the cool uncle. Brother Nasir says ASA. Omar says, hey, Papa. Brother Donald says ASLA.
Praise be to
Family
Allah.
viewing from the Philippines Islands. Thank you for tuning in, Brother Donald, as always showing love. Yes, sir. So okay, boom. How did you leave from Cincinnati and get to Chicago? What was the circumstances of that?
Okay, well, it goes back to in Cincinnati, I was a practicing journalist. I was working at various newspapers and local magazines. And as a member of the nation, obviously, we had the final call paper. And so I began to send, articles of the final to the final call to Brother Wiley, our great former editor, the late editor Abdul Wali Muhammad. And the paper was starting to grow under his leadership and his editorship. And so at a certain point, he just kind of noticed the things I was sending him. And he noticed that, that I was doing a pretty good job at whatever I was sending him, taking pictures and writing. And there was a need. I mean, he was basically a one-man show in terms of pulling it together. He had help, obviously, but the kind of skills that I was blessed to have at that time was a good fit for what he needed at the final call, because I wrote, I took photographs, and at the paper I was at, we were even like doing layout on computers, etc. And drafting layout on papers so that they can have graphs to lay out. Back then they were like cut and paste. So that's how I began to come to Chicago and spending weekends helping Brother Wiley, where we would just spend night and day just putting the paper together, man.
Yes, sir.
I don't even remember what your question was, brother.
No, how did you get from Cincinnati to Chicago? How did you get from
Oh,
Cincinnati?
okay. And so me and my wonderful wife, Darlene Muhammad, we had our 3-year-old son with a big head. It was Omar.
Yes,
and so I used to come up like every other weekend. And at one point, Brother Wiley said, hey, can you come up? And so, he made an offer. I accepted. And we packed up a U-Haul and hooked up our little car on the back, put Omar in the middle. And me and my wife, we drove to Chicago and found an apartment and started living, man.
Yes, sir. And we thank you for your sacrifice and the sacrifice of your family.
Yes,
Brother Omar was saying that was your grandson saying what's up to you. That's what he was saying. Amir from Phoenix, Brother Salim's son, and Sister Salim's son, sends a greetings to you. Mimi says, thank you so much for your dedication, countless years of service, and love you and your family have dedicated to our paper and our nation. Thank you, Mimi.
Thank you all.
Yes, sir. Now, Brother James, can you help me understand? You were getting money in Cincinnati. What made you? What like how? You know what I'm saying? What made you be like, all right, I'm just gonna go try something in a city that you know what I'm saying? Like I'm just gonna leave. Like you know what I'm saying? Like,
hey man, it was like love. It really was the love for the mission.
Yes, sir.
In actuality, coming to Chicago, I mean, it was like in Cincinnati, it was a small mosque. And it was a lot of work. So we were soldiering in Cincinnati. We were selling papers, selling fish sandwiches, and then there was a lot of tension too at various times. So, man, I was ready to just come and work.
Yes,
and it was love that brought me to it. And I mean, Chicago, some people say it's a meat grinder. early back then. Hey man, it wasn't really as much of a meat grinder as the things that were going on in my life at that time in Cincinnati.
Okay, yes, sir.
So I was, it was love. And me and Brother Wiley, we developed a really great friendship. And it was like he was soldier, and it was the mission of the paper, man. And I love journalism, so it was perfect fit.
Excellent, yes, sir. Brother Kelvin Maxwell says that you were the first Muslim he met in 1990 after he had first heard Jesus speak in reference to the minister. He said he gave me contact information on how to get in touch with the minister. Praise be to Allah. Excellent. And what transpired? Like, how did you, once you worked with Brother Wiley, how did you become the editor of the Final Call newspaper?
Okay, so I'm hearing the feedback back there. We were the day that Brother Wiley passed. It was like the first day of Kwanzaa. And we were, it's first day of Kwanzaa. We were up at the Final Call. We were closing down. I can't remember what day it was, but we were finishing work, and he was getting ready to leave, and we were going to meet him at. It was a brother named Heru, I believe his name was Heru. He had a little shop that had, the natural stuff, the books, the tapes, incense, et cetera, and it was going to be the first day of Kwanzaa, and Brother Wiley never got there. So we later had learned that he had passed away, and I don't know how much, it was a very traumatic experience, losing a shining star in the nation, a beloved friend of the minister, which is his defending friend, is what Brother Wiley is, what the name that the minister gave him.
Yes, sir.
And so, he passed, and a month later, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that I would take over and continue the work that Brother Wiley had started. And inshallah, I hope that I at least tried to live up to the task that he tried to perform.
Yes, sir. Well, I was younger, but from my observation, it was amazing, your work, Brother James.
Praise be to God.
Yes, sir. Speaking of your work, could you please let us know what being an editor of the Final Call entailed back then, and some of the accomplishments that the Final Call newspaper was doing as far as internationally, locally and internationally?
Yes, sir. Well, as an editor, obviously, when I came to help Brother Wiley, we started to grow. So initially, it was me and Brother Wiley, even the other Brother Wiley, Jack is his former name. He would help. We had a secretary, Diane, and we had other people helping, and folks coming from sending stuff from out of town. So we were like, I would call it like a little ragtag group.
Yes, sir.
Not in a negative way, but we had everybody was doing a little bit of everything. Yes, and so once Brother Wiley passed, my job was then to establish a staff. And so I brought in Brother Richard, who was contributing. He was similar to me in that he was contributing from Baltimore, and he was a very excellent, and he's the current editor-in-chief.
Yes, sir.
He was a very excellent writer and journalist. So he came on as my managing editor, and so as an editor, you kind of shape the narrative of the paper. You shape the voice of the paper. Obviously, the minister is the voice, but you kind of help put the pieces around his voice that would lift our people. And I will say that Brother Richard is continuing in the great tradition. And I would also say that every issue of the Final Call is like a Black Studies course. If you would read every issue that comes out, you get a course in Black Studies and World Studies than any other paper from the Black perspective. So that's kind of like was the role, and we were getting it out every other week, and then we became weekly. We had at one point, we had a printing operation in LA, one in Chicago, one in LA.
Yes, sir.
And so those were kind of the duties. I had always wanted to be a journalist, and I wanted to kind of like work for those big white papers and be a national correspondent, because those were the bylines, et cetera. But you couldn't be in a better position than to be an editor in the Final Call at that time when I was especially with the minister's travels. He was very, very active at that time, and he was actually setting the agenda for Black America, because his voice resonated across the country, and the programs that he did, Stop the Killing, Power,
yes,
all of those themes that he put out there resonated across the country and became the activity of Black America.
Okay, so excellent. Yes, sir. Speaking, okay. speaking of the Final Call newspaper, when I would go and visit Omar at your office, I would see in my dad's office he had a plaque. In your office, you had the plot to kill Farrakhan. You all would have like the numbers of Final Call sold under your tutelage. What were some of the heights that the Final Call reached when you were the editor?
We reached under the leadership of your dad and others. We reached 1 million.
Praise
I mean, we were into the hundreds of thousands.
Yes, sir.
And
an issue.
An issue, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Mostly it was in the hundreds of thousands, and it was across the country. I mean, a lot of work went into the Final Call. We used to do it over at the Walgreens building, which is no longer there. I don't know if you remember the one. It's right across from the Final Call. It used to be a huge.
No, sir, I'm not familiar.
It used to be a huge building on the corner of Halsted and 79th. It was the Walgreens building. It had a Walgreens downstairs. We were upstairs. I mean, you know, the FOI, it would be stacks and stacks of boxes that we would have to either put on the elevator, and then when the elevator broke, we had to do them hand them down, hand to hand, pass them down, and there would be hundreds of boxes that would go out on postal, U.S. Postal, and get until we got our own trucks.
Okay, yes, sir. Now, Brother James, there are many pictures of the Million March from certain angles and views, and I know that you were one of the key contributors of taking those photos. Can you explain to us what it was like as a photographer to be at the Million March, and also as a journalist, what it was like to be at the Million March?
Yeah. Well, man, the Million Man March to me was the greatest event in Black American history because that had never happened before, and it will never happen again. As a photographer, you know, well, let me say this too, and it's probably others experienced it. We were on the mall like at 4 o'clock, it was still dark outside. And as the sun started to come up, you know, and we were further back in the mall toward the Washington Monument, the tall Washington Monument.
Yes, sir.
So we had to walk to the Capitol. And as we got closer, I mean, you could see it was already filled in. And so as you got closer, I was wondering, well, how am I going to get up there where the stage is? And what ended up happening is these men, they picked me up and passed me over their shoulders from the back all the way up. And I had my camera on my stump, you know, like that. And they would pass me up all the way up. You know, they said, hey, there's a minister that needs to get up there. And so they passed me, and I'm sure that happened to others, but that's how magnificent it was. And so, you know, we took pictures. I was blessed that since I was there and I had a pass, I can get all the way at the top and, you know, take the big wide view. As a matter of fact, when we were putting the paper together, when we were showing the minister the cover that we had designed, it had a vertical view of the men on the mall from the Capitol to the Washington Monument. That's that tall pointed building that looked like a Klan's hood at the top. But and so he said, no, change it to that wide view so that they could see the crowd. And he came up with the title, "To God Be the Glory." And you know, I think that was the perfect title for that. So yeah, and it was, you know, being a Black journalist, doing writing, photography, doing all of the stuff, it gets kind of hard because most folks get to focus on one aspect, either writing or photography. So
yes, praise be to Allah. Thank you very much for doing that, and thank your family for their sacrifices as well. I always ask people who did security or who ministers or in some form of the military, did they ever get death threats and things of that nature? But in the form of you being so instrumental with the pen and the journalism, I know that, did you ever have to overcome fear of death or being, you know, something happening to you because of your great role in the rebuilding of the nation and Black journalism and just the Black struggle?
Did I personally fear death other than like the little things that would happen when you run into white boys, but they may not even know who, you know, that I'm the editor, you know, so I run into that kind of racist issues. I mean, maybe I was just too dumb to know that this was a threatening situation, but yes, you know, helping the minister, you go wherever he sends you.
Yes, sir.
And and you say all praise is due to Allah. You try to have no fear. I can say, I have never felt like personally that I can recall threatened with my life, if that's the question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But we've been all over the world, and well, when you're with the minister, you don't, it's like, well, God is with us, so
Yes,
there's
sir.
no fear there. But when
Yes,
he
sir.
sends
Yes,
you out
sir.
by yourself, and we went all over the world. That's the other aspect of being an editor of the Final Call, man. I have been blessed to travel all over the world on behalf of the nation and to cover throughout the world, and Brother Akbar a lot of times would be a part of the delegation, but that's been a major blessing in my life.
Excellent. Before because we want to absolutely go into your travels, and I see you all's questions, and we're coming right to them. I want to first take a brief commercial break for our sponsors. I want to thank my sister Mimi with her book ABC I Love Me, which is on Amazon. I want to thank my brother Rashad, Politically Oppressed, for his shirts. Street Premiere for his video editing. My second children's book, Cleopatra, is on Amazon.
With a
All
cat.
right, and we're right back. And we're right back in. Okay, yes, sir. Brother James.
Yeah.
What was your favorite place to travel during your travels as far as overseas?
Well, I loved Ghana. We went to Ghana, a lot. Well, we went to Libya a lot. I really did like Ghana because there was a lot of love for the minister there. But President Rawlings was the president at the time. He absolutely loved the minister. When we were able to go, Brother Akbar had set up, the nation there, and it was doing a great work there. It was my people, man. It was really a good place to go.
Okay, wonderful. And when you would go over to Africa, was there ever a time where you said you might not want to come back to America because it was so peaceful? Like in Africa, some celebrities go to Africa and it's like their life changes, and sometimes they want to stay outside of the country. Was that ever a thought for you?
I would say no, sir, because I know the mission of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It's not, we have a mission for Africa, but the mission is here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And my dream is that one day, we'll become strong enough where we can establish the kind of international relations where our brothers and sisters from Africa, where we can lift them out of the colonial handcuffs that white America and Europe has on them.
Yes, sir.
That they can see that, if they just lift the veil of fear of white power and colonialism, we can establish a relationship where Africa is ripe for the taking, and the white man has taken it.
Yes, sir.
Black folks have had to take it back because, and I think we can be instrumental in that. And so that's why the mission, I think, is, as the nation teaches, is right here to lift the mentally dead Black man and women in America.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Your daughter Camila says, "Go, Dad." Brother Donald says, "That's right."
I want to send a shout out to my daughter for her efforts to help with her nonprofit.
Yes, sir.
The Traveling Sisterhood, or I can't remember. I know she's gonna kill me for that.
Yes, sir. She does a great work. My sister Miriam says, "Y'all basically lived at the Final Call building, and I still remember paper night. You all had a level of dedication that seemed unreal." Absolutely. She said, "Okay, well, I answered your question." Well, Mimi's question is a little different. She said, "What are some of your fond memories of traveling with the minister?"
Man, the minister. If you in the minister's presence, you just learn so much. You learn character, you learn humility, and you learn courage, and you learn I marvel, his wisdom, his ability to teach and answer questions. My fondest memories, when we in 96, when we did the world tour, we did a bunch of countries. We literally, I guess the word, circumnavigated the planet. Like we started in Chicago and went eastward all the way around the world and came back, all the way around, came back through Hawaii, back to America. And during that trip, we must have went to countries or so. And in every one of them, it might have been more. I got to count them back up, but in those, and he met with heads of states. He met with, rulers. He met with Mandela, Mobutu. He met with some of the people that.
Can you please clear who Mobutu is?
He was the president of Zaire, and he was he was considered, and he was not a friend of. He was a friend of white America, but he was one of those who would be considered a brutal dictator, like some of the ones that they. But the minister's mission was peace. His mission was to spread the words of the Million Man March. I remember being in Sudan and having a conversation about the Million Man March and the leaders of the march. One of them, I think his name was Hassan Turabi. He said, they were talking about the Million Man March, and he said they didn't even need to be words. The image said it all.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that was powerful. But like in Ghana, those are good memories in Ghana and the minister, because the minister and Jerry Rawlings had such a good relationship, and traveling throughout Ghana was a joy.
Praise be to Allah. Your son Omar says, please ask him about when him and Brother Kenneth took the knife from the brother in Detroit.
When me and Brother Kenneth?
Yes, sir. That's what he says.
Okay, that one I have to kind of recall.
Okay, yes, sir. Brother Amir, peace, Amir Phoenix. Camila says, your daughter Camila says, Sisterhood of the Traveling Heart, Dad. And thank you for the shout out. Yes, ma'am. Continue to do the work. Mimi, I'm not ignorant because I don't know who Mobutu is. Mimi, you didn't know either. Mobutu. Mimi, you didn't know who he was either. So
that was a good question, though. It's the right question to ask.
I didn't know. Yes, sir. What has been in your service in the nation? What has been your greatest trial, and how did you overcome that?
Man, there have been many trials. Many trials. Sometimes you would be at a point where you want the paper ready to go, and sometimes you want it to be pleasing to the minister. Yes, those were the most anxious times.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You have to show the minister paper, and you hope and he's pleased, because you want it to be representative of his teachings. Those were the times of great trial. I guess the most trying was, and I don't talk about this part much, but when I left the final call, it was due to some thing in the paper that created it hurt me, because it was regarding the assassination of Dr. King and some things that we printed that could have reflected kind of bad on certain leadership. Yeah. And like Reverend Jackson, there were some things in there. And so that was excuse me, that was like when you say most stressful time, that was the most stressful time.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for still being consistent and overcoming. What has been your greatest joy?
Oh, well, I mean, at the final call, and Richard is still doing this very well. We part of the NNPA. We have won some awards for the writing and the editorialship of the paper. We won some back then when I was the editor. So that was, those were joyful experiences. But just being the editor, man, just being the editor, the final call is a great joy. Because you have a big role. Yes, sir. I know a lot of people some people still think I am the editor, because and I'm sure. I mean, they call me Richard sometime, and I'm sure they call Brother Richard Brother James sometime. Yes, sir. But because of that, I know a lot of people have been close and friends with me because I was the editor. I tried to represent the minister as best I could, and I'm sure everybody who does the work hopefully tries to do that. So even though it was stressful, it was joyful at the same time, because you know, when you talk to the minister in regard to, you know, his way, he can show you what you did wrong. I mean, you can walk into, you know, you go to the palace, you know, the home, and you walk in feeling like bad because you know you messed up,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
and he can take you apart little bit by little bit, and by the time you finish, he's built you back up to where you're walking out with your chest up,
Praise
you
be to
know,
God.
because of the way he can show you your error, but he doesn't leave you damaged.
Yes, sir.
Fills you back up and sends you back out to do the work, feeling better than you did when you did your best job. So that is something that I really appreciated, and I tried to learn from that.
Wonderful.
And I'm sure my son wish I had learned it when he was coming up a little quicker, how to.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And my
What
daughters.
speaking of your sons and daughters, what advice would you give to future fathers?
Future who?
Fathers.
Love your wife.
Mm.
Be good to your wife, because, you know, if you got a good wife, man, you like 90% of it is done. You know,
Yes,
because
sir.
because I mean, you know, she's the bearer of the children.
Yes,
She
sir.
goes through all of the pain. She spends the most time with the children. I know for me, I was gone most of the time. And one time my wife told me she felt like I don't know if she said a single mom or something to that fact, because we were gone
Yes,
all
sir.
the time. And that's why I take my hat off to every laborer, especially those E-team brothers who you know, who are just real close with the minister
Yes, sir.
and are there at his beck and call, because the family, you know, the wives, the children, you know, they I would say they suffer, but there's a part of the father that is doing a greater work, I guess. I don't, and I mean, you know, this is just me
Yes,
trying
sir.
to express it because I know I wasn't there and some of the things that my wife did made my children who they are as much as it was me to help them make them that. And so I would say my advice is to really make a good choice, number one.
Yes, sir.
And then when you make that good choice, treat your wife with utmost respect and be a man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that doesn't mean overlord or beat somebody. That means, you know, just be there as much as possible.
Yes, sir. Well, I definitely have to speak on behalf of me and my sister, all my sisters, with me and Mimi in particular. We thank Sister Darlene. We thank you. The Wisconsin Dells trips. You taught me. You're the first person teaching me how to drive. Just so much. But we thank you, and
Praise be to Allah.
man, we honor your family.
Praise
What do you do for fun, Brother Dan?
Man, I just rode my bike today. I like being outside. I love being outdoors. Not that I love hunting or camping a lot, but we will be going camping pretty
Yes,
soon. But I like being outdoors. I read.
Yes,
Um, you know, it's just, yeah, those are my joys. Being outside, reading, writing, being you know, I go to, if I want to really relax, I might go to the movie. Just to watch, you know, I like good movies, you know.
Okay, yes, sir.
It don't take much to please me, man.
Yes, sir.
Traveling, I like traveling. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Walaikum salam, Brother Daniel. Minister Jamil says Cincinnati to the world. He loves y'all. I will love you more, Uncle Chip. I mean, Minister Uncle
Yeah,
Chip.
Jamil.
Yes, sir. Camila said, Brother Ernest says, my dear brother from, you know, E1 Black
DC.
Guys, brother. Yes, sir. Brother Ernest. My sister's name says, all praises to Allah. Camila says, the final call was our second home.
Oh, exactly.
Thanks for all your sacrifice and your dedication there. Absolutely. T. Pharaoh, Mimi are having a conversation. Brother Michael says, Assalamu salam, sir. That's the truth, Brother Daniel. Motorcycle basketball. Oh, Camila says, do you like whitewater rafting?
Okay, she wants to talk about how I fell overboard and how they thought I was gonna drown. You know. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay, yes, sir. Mimi says, your home was our home away from home. We appreciate you and accepting us, though we were loud and ate all your food. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, we want to thank Amber, because we don't always thank her, but thank her for her sacrifice as well. Brother Mir says, Brother James, always humble and peaceful. Absolutely. Brother James, what has kept your faith all these years for you to be invited to minister in the late 70s, and you still here soldiering and holding on? What has kept you going?
Well, where else is there to go?
Yes,
That's
sir.
the thing. I mean, you know, what I've seen that the minister has produced is the truth, and for me,
Yes, sir.
the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as we see them like unfolding today. I mean, when you see what's going on with the weather, when you hear the minister talk about what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told him,
Yes,
you know, he would say like, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told him, brother, the nation's going to fall, but it's going to raise up again, never to fall again.
yes,
Well,
sir.
who could have, you know, who going to say that? You know, to me, I'm waiting to, as we see these storms, we seeing like the hail get larger and larger.
Yes,
And the
sir.
Honorable Elijah Muhammad said there will be a day when blocks of ice would fall from the sky. I'm
Yes.
waiting for the newscaster to say, today, blocks of ice fell from the sky. And, you know,
Yes,
he
sir.
talked about earthquakes in the cities that would be destroyed. I mean, the things that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us, we're seeing unfolding before our eyes. And so it's just a matter of just holding on, praying a lot that, you know, you get to see as much as you can see before you leave this place.
Yes, sir.
And so that's what's kept me, man. It's like, this, like I said, I was in the church, but this has made me a better follower of Jesus,
Yes,
because I
sir.
am
Yes.
following Jesus right now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Wonderful. One last thank you all for your comments. One last question. What do you want your legacy to be, Brother James?
That I was a Muslim.
Yes, sir.
That I did the best. You know, there's things, yeah, you know, like I'm 65 now. So there's things that if you look back that you wish you could have done, you know, and did better, or in terms of legacy, etc. I just want my children to be able to say I had a great father, wonderful father, that he contributed to the rise of our nation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that you know, like with Brother Wiley, man, he you know, I literally thought, I mean, why Brother Wiley? Why not like me? Because I was just a little totem on the little man on the totem pole, and he was so big in the nation.
Yes, sir.
And so, you know, things like that. So and then so you have your ups and downs, you make your mistakes, and you try to correct, and you just try to be a brother, and you try to help raise big head children like you and your sisters and all the ones that came through the house.
Yes, sir.
And make them good people and give them a good send off. And because this is yours to inherit, man. And it's, you can see by what's happening in the world today, what's happening in the White House. It's just like it was made, like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us of all of this.
Yes,
and
sir.
we're just watching it unfold.
Yes,
and
sir.
so we just have to hold on and help the minister as much as possible. And then when he leaves is when our greatest trial will come. And I just pray that, you know, the minister doesn't have ego, what like we have.
Yes,
And
sir.
one thing I would pray is that, you know, throughout our nation, we figure out how to kind of kill Iblis, this ego in ourselves,
Yes,
so
sir.
that we can work out differences correctly, and we don't let ourselves get in front of ourselves to cause issues that take away from the mission. So, but yeah, that's going to be the trial in my mind, and I pray a lot that I can hold on, that we can all hold on and do what the messenger wants us to do.
Praise be to Allah. Well, once again, on behalf of myself and my family, we will always uphold your name and the name of your family, and we thank you for your sacrifice, and we love you, Brother James, and love
you, Josh.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on
Yes,
off the
sir.
record. Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Appreciate it, brother. Alaikum salam.